Krishna said something that should unsettle every person who ever promised their life would look nothing like the home they grew up in. He said that even a wise person, someone who knows better, still acts according to the nature already carved into them. Not the fool, the wise one. The one who sees the pattern clearly and lives it out anyway. Sit with what that means for you. You swore you would never shrink yourself just to keep the peace, and yet you still say yes when every part of you is screaming no. You promised you would never need anyone's approval to feel like you were enough, and still, one cold look from the wrong person can unravel your whole day. You swore you would trust yourself, and still you freeze at the simplest decision, waiting for a permission that never comes. How does that happen when no one is forcing you, when you are an adult now, when you swore all of this would end with you? The wisdom of Sanatana Dharma has an answer, and it is deeper and more honest than anything modern advice will hand you. Stay with me till the end, because the way out only makes sense once you see who is really running your life. Long before you were born, the Mahabharata told the story of a man destroyed by a pattern he could not even see in himself. His name was Dhritarashtra, and he was born blind. Because of that blindness, the throne that should have been his was given to his younger brother instead. Imagine carrying that wound. The eldest, passed over, made to feel that he was somehow less. That wound never healed. It went quiet and it waited. Years later, his son Duryodhana began grasping for a throne that was not rightfully his. Every wise voice in that court warned the old king, "Restrain your son. This road ends in ruin." And Dhritarashtra could not do it. He could not refuse his son because his son was reaching for the exact thing he himself had been denied. The wound he carried had quietly become the blindness he passed on. Not the blindness of his eyes, the blindness of the heart. Here is what should stop you cold. Dhritarashtra was not stupid and he was not evil. He simply could not see the pattern moving him, even while the wisest people alive pointed straight at it. And notice something. The pattern he passed down was not loud. It was not rage and it was not cruelty. It was a quiet inability to say no, a fear dressed up as love, a need he never once named. That is the thing about what we inherit. The loud traits we swear against are easy to spot. It is the quiet ones, the pleasing, the fearing, the endless seeking of approval that run us the longest. Precisely because we never notice them. So the real question is this: if these patterns are invisible and even wisdom does not stop them, then who is truly in the driver's seat, and can that person ever be replaced? In the wisdom of Sanatana Dharma, there is a precise word for what ran the blind king and for what runs you. The word is samskara. A samskara is an impression, a groove worn into the mind by repeated experience. The way water slowly cuts a channel into stone. You were a child in a particular house, with particular people, and you learnt what kept you safe there. If love had to be earned, you learned to perform for it. That became a groove. If mistakes were punished, you learned to fear every decision. That became a groove. If your feelings were treated as an inconvenience, you learned to swallow them and keep the peace. That became a groove. You did not choose any of this. You were small, and these grooves were cut before you had any say. The Yoga Vasishtha, one of the great texts on the nature of the mind, teaches that the mind is essentially made of its vasanas, its deep tendencies, the stored momentum of everything it has repeated. And a groove that deep does not wait for your permission. It fires first, before the thinking part of you has even arrived. This is why simply deciding to change almost never works. And Krishna said so directly. Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakritir jnanavanapi. Prakritim yanti bhutani Nigraha kim karishyati. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 33. Even a wise person acts according to their own nature. All beings follow their nature. What good will suppression do? Read that last line again. What good will suppression do? You cannot force your way out of a groove this old. Push it down and it simply waits, then returns twice as strong. So if the pattern is not your fault and force will not remove it, the real work has to happen somewhere much deeper. Here is where Sanatana Dharma gently corrects something the world gets wrong. Our tradition reveres parents deeply. The Taittiriya Upanishad gives one of the most beloved instructions in all of Vedic life. Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava. Taittiriya Upanishad, Shikshavalli 1.11. Revere your mother as divine. Revere your father as divine. This is real, and we honor it fully. We bow to those who gave us this body, this life, this very chance to seek liberation. But revering someone and depending on their approval to feel whole are two very different things. And it is the second one that quietly runs so many lives. The people who raised you did their best with the grooves that were cut into them. They carried their own fears, their own wounds, their own limits. You can receive the love they gave with real gratitude and still set down the fear they lived by. The fear they carried does not have to become yours. Because Sanatana Dharma is clear about where your worth truly comes from. The great declaration of the Upanishads is, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Your worth was never something another person could grant you or take away. It is not a reward for pleasing anyone. It is the ground of what you already are. The Bhagavad Gita praises the one of steady wisdom, the Sthita Prajna, who remains the same, whether the world honors them or blames them. Think of how much of your life has been spent chasing the first and dreading the second. That entire chase can end because your peace was never theirs to give. Even Arjuna, the greatest warrior of his age, once stood frozen on that battlefield, unable to choose, crushed by everything he felt he owed to others. And Krishna's whole teaching lifted him out of that paralysis into a clear and resolute mind, one settled in his own dharma rather than in what others expected of him. You are allowed to love them and to stop living for their approval. Both at once. Now we reach the deepest layer, and it is the one that actually sets you free. Ask yourself a strange question. If a frightened child inside you is still seeking approval, still bracing for punishment, still afraid to choose, then who is the one that can see that child? There is a part of you that watches the old fear rise, a part that notices you shrinking and quietly says, there it is again. That witness is not the frightened child. It never was. The Ashtavakra Gita, one of the boldest declarations of freedom ever spoken, points straight at it. Yadi deham prithak krityachiti vishramya tishtasi adunaiva sukhi shanto bandhamukto bhavishyasi. Ashtavakra Gita, chapter 1, verse 3. If you separate yourself from the body and rest in pure awareness, this very moment you become happy, at peace, and free. This is what our tradition means by release. The frightened child you once were is not a wound to be nursed forever. It is a false self to be seen through and finally set down. There is a word for this release. It is moksha. Freedom from the conditioned self, the very thing this whole path exists to give you. This is not a trick where you simply notice the child and the entire pattern dissolves. The groove is still there and it still demands real work. But everything changes once you know you are not the child. You are not repairing something broken that you are trapped inside. You are the awareness that was always free, choosing at last to reshape what it carries. The blind king believed he was his wound. That belief was his entire prison. You do not have to believe the same lie about yourself. So here is the actual work the way the rishis prescribed it, not the way modern comfort prescribes it. You do not defeat an old groove by fighting it head-on. You defeat it by carving a new one, through repetition, until the new channel becomes the one the river naturally runs. Krishna gives the method directly. In the very moment Arjuna says the mind is impossible to control. Asanchayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grahyate. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 35. Without doubt, the mind is restless and hard to control. But through practice and through non-attachment, it can be mastered. The first key word is abhyasa. It means steady, patient, repeated practice, done again and again over time. The second is vairagya, a loosening of your grip, so you stop being ruled by the old craving to please or to be approved of. Here is what that looks like on an ordinary day, not on a mountaintop. Someone asks something of you, and the old groove says yes before you can even think. You feel it rise. And for one breath, you catch it. You do not obey it, and you do not hate yourself for feeling it. You simply pause, and you choose the answer that comes from your own self, not from the frightened child. That single pause feels like nothing. It seems to change nothing today, but you do it again the next day and 100 times after that. And slowly, a new groove begins to cut. The choice that once took everything you had becomes easier. Then it becomes natural. Then one day, it simply becomes who you are. That is abhyasa. That is how a pattern that took decades to form is finally undone. One honest choice at a time. Let me say all of this as plainly as I can. The grooves cut into you as a child were not your fault. You were small, and you learnt whatever kept you safe. But whether those grooves run the rest of your life, that part is entirely yours. That is the one piece of all this that truly belongs to you. You will not win this in a single dramatic moment. There is no one day where the past is defeated forever. You win it in small, quiet, unseen choices that no one will ever applaud. The yes you finally refuse. The decision you make without waiting for permission. The approval you stop chasing. And every time you choose from your own self instead of the frightened child, you are doing something quietly enormous. You are releasing a self that was built by fear and coming home to the one that was always free. This is not about blaming the people who raised you. It is about no longer being ruled by what they could not give you. You do not have to be the blind king, passing on a wound he never once turned to face. You have already turned to face it. And that turning is the beginning of freedom. The pattern stops here, with you, because you finally chose to set it down. So let us return to where we began. Dhritarashtra had every wise voice in his kingdom telling him the truth, and he still could not see the pattern moving through him, because he believed he simply was that pattern. You have something the old king never had. You have already seen it. You know these patterns are samskaras, not your soul. You know your worth was never theirs to grant. That beneath the frightened child, there is a self that was always free. And that a new groove is carved through abhyasa, one honest choice at a time. What felt for years like just the way I am was never the whole truth. It was an inheritance. And an inheritance can be honored and still refused. Krishna never promised it would be easy. Through steady practice and through loosening your grip, even the most restless repeating mind can be mastered. That promise is as true for you today as it was on that battlefield. So here is one thing to do before you close this. Name the pattern you are ready to set down. The pleasing, the approval seeking, the fear of deciding, whichever one has run you longest. Put it into words in the comments today. Naming it out loud is itself the first pause. It is exactly where the new groove begins.